The message came in on a cold Thursday. Morning piped straight into every government channel on Earth, every news outlet stopped mid-broadcast, every head of state got the same alert. The Galaxy Council, the self-declared rulers of interstellar law and order, had officially declared war on Earth. Their voice was cold, robotic, translated into every language at once due to repeated violations of interplanetary protocol, aggression toward Council vessels, and unauthorized expansion into protected sectors. Humanity is hereby declared an enemy of peace. Prepare for consequences. You have one galactic cycle to surrender. The room fell quiet in every part of Earth, but only for a second, because someone, probably in New Texas, if the memes were right, posted the first joke. Within 30 seconds. Do we at least get cool alien uniforms for this? That was it. The floodgates opened. Memes, parodies, t-shirts, reaction videos. Late-night comedy shows had a field day. The words Galactic Council trended just under alien war. Try not to laugh. Challenge. See, humanity had seen worse. Plagues, world wars, internet outages. If anything, they had always turned pain into humor, fear into defiance. And this was just Tuesday. Back at the United Earth Assembly, the officials were trying to look serious, but even they couldn't help smirking as they watched the public's response spiral into full-blown mockery. We should at least pretend to take this seriously, muttered one diplomat. Sipping lukewarm coffee, someone else replied, why, they're not the first aliens who tried this. Remember the Thraxi invasion? The lizards with glass ships, exactly. One missile and they folded like cheap chairs. But this wasn't just another dumb alien race with poor recon. The Galaxy Council was different. A coalition of over 100 species. Ancient, powerful, supposedly enlightened, and very, very full of themselves. They had expected panic, negotiations, maybe a desperate plea for mercy. Instead, humanity laughed in their face. Even Earth's military didn't shift much. They'd been preparing for alien drama for decades, ever since the moon conflict. Stealth drones were already in orbit, AI defense grids powered up, and then there were the unofficials, the ghost divisions. No uniforms, no names. Just humans who weren't listed anywhere, but had orders to respond in unpredictable ways. 3 days after the announcement, a fleet of Council scouts entered the solar system, small ships, mostly observation but arrogant. They didn't cloak, they didn't ask permission, they just hovered above the Earth's atmosphere, assuming dominance. Big mistake. At first, they thought the message they received was a glitch. Lol, come closer. We dare you. One of the ships moved half a kilometer. Lower it vanished. No explosion, no fire, just gone. And then Earth's message went public, a short clip blasted across every open channel. Human sitting at a desk. Plain clothes. No insignia, just a crooked smile and a coffee mug that said, "Born to Disrupt." He leaned into the camera and said, "You wanted war? Cool, just don't cry when it bites back." Then he winked. The message ended with 2 words, "Try us." The Galaxy Council went quiet for a week. Then came the Armada, over 400 ships, heavy class war beasts, fighters, carriers, things with claws that ripped planets apart. Before breakfast, they expected resistance. They didn't expect boredom, because when they arrived, they found Earth partying, lights, music, fireworks, a banner stretched across a Space station, welcome to the end of your overconfidence. And then the council learned the first painful truth about humanity. They weren't afraid of war, they were the war. War never begins with explosions. It starts in silence, right before the first shot, in the quiet moments. Everyone pretends diplomacy still matters, but Earth didn't bother pretending. The Galaxy Council thought they were lords of the stars, thought their fleets would bring silence to Earth. Instead, humanity turned up the volume. As the Council's warships filled Earth's orbit, satellites began broadcasting music, loud, obnoxious, entirely human. Music, heavy metal over Russia, EDM over Europe, country music blasted across South America, and in classic human fashion, someone hacked into the Council's communication system just to play old Earth jazz inside their warships. The aliens thought it was psychological warfare. It wasn't, it was boredom. Back on Earth, people treated the incoming fleet like a tourist attraction. TikTok and hollow feeds lit up with videos titled "Alien Ships Sighted from My Rooftop" or "Making Pancakes While the Galaxy Declares War." There were bets in underground forums which country would strike first, how long until the Council folds, would Earth's retaliation even be televised, and through it all Earth's leaders kept unusually quiet. Intentionally. The silence from official channels was strategic. The Council, full of pride and paperwork, kept demanding a formal response. Humanity gave them nothing but memes and static. The leader of the Council's war delegation, a towering being with crystalline skin and an ego to match, went by the name Velra Oran. He had been promised an easy victory. His people had warned him not to underestimate Earth, but he believed no sentient species that still used combustion engines could pose a real threat. He stood in the command chamber of the flagship Vile's judgment, watching as Earth citizens broadcast dance challenges with warships in the background. "They mock us," he hissed, mandibles clicking in disgust. One of his subcommanders, a small, gray-skinned observer species called Kith, floated beside him and replied calmly, "They always do this before they strike. It's a ritual of theirs. They call it humor," said another. "This one translating human culture, primitive brain function. It's how they process fear." Velrock wasn't convinced. "They process fear like this, with parties and jokes." The Kith nodded. "That's why they're so dangerous. They don't react like the others. They turn fear into defiance, pain into entertainment, loss into fuel. They weaponize insanity." Velro considered that, then ordered a demonstration strike. One ship, one beam, one target. They selected a military base in the Australian outlands, strategic but not civilian. The Council ship hovered, charged its primary beam and fired a direct hit. The base disappeared in a cloud of dust and heat. The land beneath it melted into glass. The message was clear. "We're not bluffing." Earth's response. The very next hour, a global live stream was scheduled. No governments, no suits, no boring political scripts, just one person. She sat at a desk under the flickering light of a bare bulb. Her hair was tied back, face calm. Her name wasn't broadcast. She wore a plain black shirt with white text that simply read, "We don't start fights, we end them." She looked directly into the camera and, with a voice full of fire wrapped in velvet, she spoke, "You destroyed one of our bases. Congratulations, you've officially joined the long list of things we no longer have patience for. She leaned forward, eyes hard as steel. We laughed because we knew you're not ready for what comes next, you see. We've studied your council, your hierarchy, your laws, your fleets, your weaknesses, while you filed reports and argued over star maps. We built quietly, prepared silently. We put weapons where no one thought to look, in the ice, in the moons, inside comets. She smiled slow and sharp. We even put weapons inside yourselves. The transmission cut. The council ship scrambled, internal sensors triggered. Panic bloomed. A virus knows something worse was crawling through there. Systems, not digital, not biological. Something human built that infected perception. Ships began to see phantom threats. Internal systems turned on, firewalls melted, screens flickered with nonsense symbols and one recurring message: you should have stayed in your lane. In orbit, 3 council cruisers lost control of their navigation. One spiraled into the moon, creating a crater the size of Manhattan. Another shot into deep space, its thrusters jammed at full. The third just exploded. No known projectile, no sign of attack. It simply turned to fire and vanished. Earth still hadn't fired a single visible weapon. Velrock was furious. He smashed his fist into the command table. How are they doing this? They've been preparing, said the Kith calmly, floating nearby. For decades quietly they knew this was coming, but they are alone. Velrock screamed, no sir, they're not. That's when the real fear started to spread across the council, because just outside Earth's orbit, hidden the shadow of Saturn, massive unknown vessels began to appear, black, angular, silent. They weren't Earth ships, but they carried Earth's markings. Unregistered, stealth-based, shielded with tech the council had never seen. One by one they came online, first 10, then 50, then over 100, and not just ships, weapons platforms, mobile stations, fractured drones. Humanity had been quietly building an armada. But the scariest thing wasn't the size, it was that the ships didn't match. Some were made from old Earth steel, others used alien alloys. Some had shapes that defied physics. It was as if humanity had been scavenging tech from every known species and smashing it together. These ships weren't uniform. They were chaotic, unpredictable, human. Velrock whispered, this is impossible. But it wasn't. For decades Earth had been poked, prodded, threatened, and attacked by small factions. The Council had dismissed it as unimportant, calling Earth a developing planet. But humans, they weren't just survivors, they were collectors. Every invader that fell left behind weapons, scraps, tech, and humans studied it all, reverse engineered it, upgraded it, sold it on black markets, modified it. They turned every enemy into a lesson, and now those lessons had come home. The Council tried one last message. You are outnumbered. We are a 100 species strong. You cannot win. This time, Earth responded immediately. One single transmission, just a voice. We're not trying to win, we're just making sure you lose harder. Then it started. The first shots fired weren't from Earth's official fleets, they came from pirates, human ones, old, retired soldiers turned freelancers who'd been waiting for this day. They had no flags, no rules, just revenge in their blood and plasma guns in their hands. They hit a Council destroyer from behind, boarded. It took the bridge. The crew never made it off. Within minutes, a live broadcast showed the human pirate captain sitting in the alien captain's chair, feet kicked up, sipping whiskey. "Hey, Council, y'all got any more ships for us to steal?" Asking for a friend, he winked, raised a middle finger to the camera, and the stream cut. Chaos erupted, Council ships scattered. But it was too late. Earth's ghost divisions activated. They weren't on any official registry, no uniforms, no country. But they had names whispered in Council records, unconfirmed but feared. Shadow units, void walkers, the gloom. They didn't speak, they just appeared inside Council ships out of thin air and disabled entire crews with silence and knives. Some ships were found drifting empty, no bodies, no signs of struggle. Just the words scratched into metal. "Welcome to humanity." Back on Earth, civilians watched the whole thing unfold like it was a reality show. Merchandise boomed, t-shirts with "Try Us" sold out within hours. Someone made a rap song using Council panic transmissions as the beat. A pizza chain offered a Galaxy War special with black crust and meteorship pepperonis. Humanity didn't pause for war, they danced in it, because war for them was never the end. It was just another chapter, and they were always writing the story. The war wasn't going the way the Galaxy Council expected, not even close. By now, entire sectors of space were on fire. Council ships built with centuries of technological perfection had met an enemy they couldn't calculate. Humanity didn't fight by rules, they didn't follow known tactics, they didn't coordinate fleets like others did, they didn't even send proper declarations before attacks. They just appeared, and then everything went black. Velro Oran, still seated in the command center of Vile's judgment, was rapidly unraveling. He hadn't slept. His fourth in command had just self-terminated after being sent into a captured Earth freighter and returning with hallucinations, screaming about invisible weapons and entire rooms that changed shape. The war was barely a week old, and the Galaxy Council was already losing ground. They had underestimated humanity's most dangerous trait, not their technology, not their biology, not even their cunning. It was their adaptability. One Council ship, the Talek Rising, encountered a swarm of Earth fighters that should have been easily outmatched. The fighters were outdated, made of scrap, some even visibly patched with duct tape and salvaged plates. The Talek commander didn't even raise shields. Big mistake, those fighters were unmanned. AI operated with adaptive learning algorithms based on human emotion patterns. They didn't fly in formation. They darted like insects. They didn't aim where the ship was. They aimed where the ship feared it would go. The Talthax Rising exploded in under 90 seconds. The Council didn't understand it. Their AI couldn't mimic it. Their combat programs were logical, precise. But humanity had figured out how to make AI fight like lunatics. Earth called it the madness engine. It worked by simulating fear, chaos, desperation. It didn't try to win like a machine. It tried to survive like a human, and that made it lethal. By the 5th day of war, Earth hadn't lost a single major city. The Council had lost 31 ships, 3 battle platforms, and 1 entire species had dropped out of the war effort after receiving an anonymous box on their home world Senate floor, a box that contained a perfect simulation of their extinction in 72 hours, complete with holographic footage of their cities, Burning, it ended with the words, "Keep out of it, this is between us and the ones who thought they were gods." Back on Earth, life barely changed. Markets dipped for a day, then surged. Kids still went to school, some virtually, some under the shimmering dome shields that now protected all major cities. Construction crews didn't stop. Farmers still planted crops. War was happening above them, around them, but Earth wasn't shaking. It was evolving, because Earth didn't just prepare for war, they built for it. Underground networks went live, massive tunnel cities powered by geothermal energy, orbital elevators moved supplies at record speed. Civilian militias trained in abandoned malls turned bunkers. Even private companies got involved, building railgun satellites and weaponizing old space junk into kinetic kill streaks. Some called it the rise of the corporate warlords, ex-CEOs now commanding fleets paid for with crypto, vengeance, and caffeine. But they didn't fight for money. They fought because Earth was theirs, and the Council had made the mistake of touching it. Somewhere over the orbit of Mars, Council carrier tried to escape. It had taken heavy damage. Its shield cores were fluctuating, and 3 decks had been breached by what they described as black fire that sings. Their commander, a gelatinous being of light and gas named Aller, activated emergency warp coordinates set, deep space uninhabited. But the ship didn't jump. Instead, every screen on board lit up with a single phrase: "Run all you want, we already caught you." Then the lights went out. A human ship uncloaked beside them. It had no registration, no engine signatures, but on the hull, scrolled in white, was a message: "You declared war. We're just returning the call." The Aller was never heard from again. Meanwhile, in the Council's core systems, chaos was blooming. Protests, riots, fear. The Council had always been seen as untouchable. For centuries, they enforced peace through threats, sanctions, and overwhelming force. No one dared challenge them. No one could. Until Earth, now smaller worlds, began asking dangerous questions. If Earth can stand up to them, why can't we? Why do we need the Council at all? Velrock's inbox overflowed with panic from allied worlds, requests for reinforcements, demands for explanations. Worse, some Council members were defecting, sending secret communiques to Earth asking to switch sides. Earth's response: cold, efficient, unapologetic. "You're late, but you're not useless. You want in. Prove it. Burn a Council ship. Then we'll talk." The balance was shifting, and Velro knew it. In a private meeting with his remaining admirals, he asked the question none of them wanted to hear: did we start something we can't finish? No one answered. They didn't have to. Because at that moment, a new video dropped. It wasn't from Earth's government. It was from a civilian girl, maybe 19, sitting on a rooftop in a hoodie, recording herself on a cheap drone cam. She looked up at the alien warships in orbit and said, "Hey aliens, you picked the wrong planet. We're not scared. We're pissed, and we don't forgive easy. You break our stuff, we break your whole house. That's how it works here." She pointed a finger at the sky. "Tell your Council we're coming, not just to fight, but to change the rules." Then she smiled. "And if you don't like it, cry harder." The video got 2.7 billion views in an hour. One Council species surrendered immediately. Another tried to go dark, only to find their planet surrounded by Earth drones. shaped like birds that sang lullabies. While scanning their infrastructure, there were rumors now that Earth had allies no one knew about, that humans had made deals with old hidden species, that they had tamed things even the Council feared, the kind of species that lived in black holes, the kind that didn't speak in words, only pulses of hunger. But those were rumors, right? Velro wasn't so sure anymore. He stared at the holographic map of the war zone. Red blips for Council, blue for Earth. At first it was all red, now it looked like Earth was bleeding through space, like ink in water, and then a message pinged, not over military frequencies, but on his personal comms. He opened it. A human face stared back, old man, scarred, one eye missing, behind him. Council banners burned. You still breathing, Crystal Boy? The old man chuckled. You declared war, fine, but you forgot who we are. He leaned in, close, voice low and cold. We're the species that fights each other for fun, the ones who nuke their own moon just to test a theory. We race machines at the speed of sound, dive into volcanoes for research, and strap ourselves to rockets because we're curious. He grinned. We laugh at death. We kiss in the middle of riots. We play love songs during shootouts. Then almost softly he added, we are chaos, and now we've aimed it at you. The screen went black. Velro slowly sat down. No more illusions. This wasn't a war. This was an extinction event, and humanity wasn't the one being targeted. It was the one doing the hunting. The message from the scarred human spread through the galaxy. Council's ranks like a virus made of dread. It wasn't an official declaration. It wasn't coded or encrypted or wrapped in any ceremonial nonsense. It was just a man talking like he'd already won and daring the rest of the galaxy to catch up. It was more effective than any missile. Rarun didn't eat. His kind didn't sleep either, but if they did, he wouldn't have. He stood alone in the war chamber of Vile's judgment, surrounded by failing hollow displays and buzzing alerts. The front line was gone. What was once the Council's military pride, its shield of peace, was now scattered. Debris across orbital paths and asteroid belts. The humans didn't take ground. They didn't hold territory like other species. They just kept moving, wrecking everything in their path, then vanishing again. He called it a virus before. That was wrong. Humanity was a wildfire. It didn't follow logic. It didn't need a reason. Once lit, it didn't stop until everything in its path was ash, and worst of all, the galaxy was starting to enjoy it. On the Mid-M planet of Jalvura, a mining world that had been under Council taxation for over 100 years, the workers revolted. Not for independence, not even for justice, but because they saw a viral video of a human biker gang riding through the flaming wreckage of a Council outpost, music blaring, laughing, drinking, and dragging a Council flag behind their bikes. It lit something in the miners, not hatred, hope. Those freaks on Earth don't even wear body armor, one of the miners said, smashing his shovel into a Council drone's head. They fight for the hell of it, another yelled, ripping down the tax office. Council lost that planet in 6 hours. No human troops had even landed. Meanwhile, in a dark corner of the Kuiper Belt, a human stealth cruiser named the Laughing Widow floated silently in the shadow of a frozen rock. Its crew wasn't military. They were rejects, outlaws, cybernetic smugglers, ex-Black Ops, each one with a bounty in at least 3 systems. None of them had names anymore, just call. Signs, the captain, a woman known only. As Rook leaned over the ops console as an AI voice whispered, target acquired. Council War freighter, unescorted. Course intersects our path in 2 minutes. Rook lit a cigarette. Give them the welcome mat, her crew. Didn't ask questions, they didn't salute, they just smiled. One of them, a silent man covered in glowing tattoos, keyed a button. Clears throat beneath the freighter. Dormant mines hidden in ice cracked open. And launched, not explosives, EMP nodes. Virus spheres, gravitic ruptures. The freighter never knew what hit it. It didn't explode, it simply stopped moving, then began spinning slowly. Lights flickering, gravity failing. The laughing widow moved in silently and began slicing into its underbelly with a plasma cutter. Rook watched through the screen as her boarding team entered the ship. She didn't need to say much, just one line she repeated every time. Take what hurts the most, leave the rest. Screaming. That was the Earthway. Now at the Council Capital on Syndicar Prime, panic had turned into division. Species that once stood united were now blaming each other. We shouldn't have declared war, it was Velrock's arrogance. They hacked our entire weapon database. Someone gave them access. Behind every accusation, the same truth lingered. Humanity didn't rise alone, someone helped them. It was impossible to believe Earth had built its arsenal in silence. Someone leaked blueprint, someone sold codes. Council had grown too big, too corrupt, too slow. It believed in structure, formality, in rules and treaties and public condemnation. Humans believed in winning, and someone else, some of the race or rogue AI, even internal council faction, had seen the writing on the wall and thrown their lot in with the lunatics from Earth. Syndicar Prime's security grid lit up as reports came in. Massive AI interference across banking systems. 3 council senators found dead. Necks snapped, no signs of struggle. Black flags spotted in orbit. Unmarked ships using human frequency jammers. By the time the council realized what was happening, it was too late. Earth had infiltrated the capital, not with armies, with ideas, freedom, defiance, rebellion. And once those ideas started spreading, there was no stopping them. On Earth, things were quiet, not because nothing was happening, but because the war was now. Elsewhere, the skies were clear, orbital. Defenses still watched, but they hadn't fired in days. People returned to life with a casualness that infuriated the council. Cafes reopened. Artists painted murals of flaming council ships. One school in Nairobi built a statue of a human child kicking a crystal kind. Alien in the groin. Tourists came to take pictures. Earth was celebrating a war still in progress. They weren't just mocking the council, they were rewriting their place in the galaxy. Back on Vile's judgment, Velrock's grip on reality began to break. He couldn't understand it. He had studied human history, knew their violent past, but this wasn't just violence. This wasn't conquest or power, hunger or desperation. This was joyful destruction. The humans were fighting because they loved it, not out of hate, not even out of vengeance. Because it was fun. They sang during combat, they danced after victories. Their soldiers got matching tattoos mid-battle. They named their rail guns things like Boomstick Betty and Apology. Denied, the war wasn't just a war, it was a party, and the galaxy was starting to RSVP in a desperate attempt to regain Control, the Council-authorized project. Spanier, a doomsday fleet locked away. For centuries, powered by ancient weapons considered too volatile to use. Massive ships with dark energy reactors, neural disruption beams, and planet-rending payloads, each one was supposed to be the final answer to galactic rebellion. They sent them toward Earth. 6 of them, fast, silent, deadly, and each one vanished before reaching Mars. No signals, no debris, no survivors. Single message played on open frequencies: your monsters don't scare us, we feed ours espresso and let them drive. Velro collapsed in the war chamber. Alone, trembling, he stared at the tactical board, all red, all silent. Earth wasn't just winning, it was spreading. He whispered to himself a mantra that had once been comforting: we are the Council, we are the law, we are the law. But it didn't matter anymore, because for the first time in recorded galactic history, the law had been laughed at, and the sound of that laughter was louder than any weapon. The war wasn't just going bad for the galaxy Council anymore, it was turning into something worse, a punchline. Across the galaxy, the words Earth and humans stopped inspiring fear or pity. They started sparking smirks. Galactic comedians, once terrified of crossing Council lines, now made open jokes on interstellar streams. What's the difference between a Council dreadnought and a comet? At least a comet doesn't scream when humans find it. Even Council-aligned species whispered about defecting. Black market dealers were flooding the stars with knockoff human merch, jackets that read certified chaos, mugs that said I survived the human front, and all I got was PTSD, and stickers shaped like Earth with fangs. But Earth wasn't done laughing, they were just getting started. Back home, deep inside Earth's subterranean command center, code name Abyss Nest, the people actually running the war didn't wear uniforms, they didn't salute, most of them had never served in any military. They were designers, programmers, gamers, engineers. The war room didn't look like a war room, it looked like a LAN party from hell. Massive screens glowing with code and animated models of alien ships exploding to the beat of old punk music. The leader, a thin woman with buzzed hair and black nails, was known only by her handle, Grimrose. She wasn't a general, she was the former head of a now illegal software company that once sold predictive behavior algorithms to underground casinos. Now she ran tactical prediction systems for Earth's shadow fleets, and she was winning. Grimrose cracked open an energy drink and looked over the growing display of flashing red icons, Council ships entering her trap grid just like she wanted. What's their delay? She asked. Younger tech beside her adjusted. Hologram. Still following their own protocols. Pre-warp acceleration, defensive spread. Triple shield phasing. Grimrose smirked, cute like watching toddlers with knives. Execute protocol 7 black. The room went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. 7 black wasn't a tactic, it was a message. 3 hours later, on the edge of the Zenturi Expanse, a politically neutral zone known for diplomacy, 12 Council ships warped in looking for sanctuary. Instead, they found music broadcast across every wavelength, every frequency, every inch of space. Frank Sinatra. And now the end is near. Their systems glitched, shields fluctuated. They tried to turn, but it was too late. Dozens of human-made mines detonated, not with Fire but with pulses of chaotic code. Ship AI screamed, engines died mid-burn. Internal gravity flipped as the cruisers spiraled into each other. The song reached its chorus. I did it my way. The ships collided in a beautiful, terrible bloom of red and blue fire. Every species watching the century diplomatic feed saw it, and Earth's signature appeared on screen. A laughing skull wearing a party hat. Underneath it, "This is our diplomacy." Back at the council core, Velron was done issuing orders. He sat in his private chamber, surrounded by silence and incense, his crystalline fingers trembling. Everything he had believed in rules, order, protocol had shattered like thin ice under human boots, and worse, the fear was spreading inside his own species. You couldn't fight humans with numbers because humans multiplied under pressure. You couldn't fight them with fear because they drank it like wine. You couldn't fight them with reason because they didn't always use it. No. Velrock realized something older, darker, and far more terrifying than any data model could predict. Humanity was not a species. It was a disease of the cosmos, a viral concept, infecting everything it touched. Freedom, defiance, unpredictability. And now it was spreading to the council's own citizens in the slums of Vorkalin, a high-gravity council colony. Workers tore down statues of Velrock's predecessors. Some wore human flags as capes, some carried ancient rifles. Smuggled in by Earth sympathizers, they didn't scream war cries. They played rock music over stolen loudspeakers and spray-painted Earth slogans on walls. We are the mad ones, better to burn than bow, make galaxy chaotic again. One worker broadcasted a stream from his helmet cam to the humans. If you're watching, we're with you. We're tired of kneeling, tired of the council taking our children for peace programs. You fight for chaos, but it's better than the silent cage we were born in. He raised a bottle of stolen synth and grinned. Now come teach us how to break the rules properly. The video got 300 million views in 5 hours, and Earth noticed. On a small human transport ship named Betty's Razor, 2 mercenaries were playing cards while their ship refueled. From asteroid vapor, the message hit their console mid-aim. Council world uprising requesting Earth operatives, no pay, just wreckage. They looked at each other. One shrugged. You busy? The other stood and stretched. I was getting bored anyway. They tapped a button. Root us in. Let's go introduce these rebels to rock and roll. The council tried to regroup, tried to rebrand the war, called humans terrorists, called them lawless, called them unstable, unworthy of the stars. But the galaxy had already made up its mind, because for all the destruction humans brought, they never lied. They never claimed to be righteous. They never pretended to be better. They just were what they were, a storm in boots. In a final act of desperation, the council attempted to negotiate. They sent envoys to Earth, unarmed, transparent, broadcasting peace. Earth allowed the envoy to land. They were taken to an old building, not a fortress, not a palace, just an abandoned warehouse turned into a war room. The walls were covered in alien weapon parts, graffiti, and a large hologram that just said, "Rule Ember for 1, never start, shut, you can't finish." The human who met them had no title, no badge, just a long coat and a smirk. You want peace? The council envoy nodded. Quickly, we do. We admit miscalculation. A massive one. The human sipped his coffee. You want surrender. The envoy paused. We want negotiation. The human leaned forward. You don't get to negotiate, you declare. War, we replied. Now you want it to end. Because you're losing. The envoy said nothing. So here's the offer. The human tapped a device. A hologram appeared. Every council. Military base. Every strategic fleet. Location. Every classified weak point. We could have ended this yesterday, but we wanted you to feel it. We wanted the galaxy to see what happens when bullies get punched in the teeth. The human stood. You want peace? Fine, he tossed the envoy a coin-shaped chip. That's our terms. One rule, one law. From now on, Earth's the council. The envoy's eyes widened. That's madness. The human smiled wide. Damn right it is. And as the envoy left Earth, looking back at the blue planet that had humbled a galactic empire, one truth hung heavier than gravity. The council hadn't just lost a war, it had lost relevance. The age of diplomacy was dead. The age of humanity had begun, and it was loud. And it was messy, and it was just getting started. There was no formal announcement, no ceremony, no coronation. One day the Galaxy Council ruled the stars, the next Earth did, but the humans never called it an empire. That wasn't their style. They called it the restructure. No species voted for it. It wasn't debated in galactic halls. It just happened quietly, unapologetically, with the kind of casual confidence only humans could carry. Earth stepped into the vacuum the council had left, not to control the galaxy, but to disrupt it. Their first move wasn't conquest, it was something much worse. They opened up everything. Files once hidden in the council's deepest vaults, public, every shady contract, war crime, planetary sanction, species manipulation, and bribe dumped online for the whole galaxy to scroll through. Whole planets rioted after learning what had been done to them under the name of peace. And Earth just leaned back and let the flames spread. The second move came from someone no one expected, a 12-year-old boy from S. Paulo who posted a viral holo clip from his school tablet. We should let everyone build their own fleets, not government's people. It was a joke. Child's fantasy. Earth took it seriously. Within a week they launched the Citizen Armada Initiative, an open-source shipbuilding project that allowed any species anywhere to download free schematics and construct their own defense and exploration vessels using modular Earth-based templates. No passwords, no restrictions, no hierarchy. Every blueprint had one simple phrase embedded into its code, because no one should have to beg to survive. Entire planets that had never had space flight were suddenly launching their first fighters. Backyard engineers on moons like Draxer 9 were welding warships out of mining rigs. Pirate crews rebranded as neighborhood defense units. The galaxy was no longer divided into rulers and ruled. It was a sandbox, and Earth had just handed out the keys. Velro Oran watched it all from exile, stripped of title, forgotten by the new order. He lived now in a cold stone room on a small moon outside council space, guarded by drones who answered not to a military but to something far worse. Human moderators. They didn't wear armor, they wore hoodies and drank soda. They didn't interrogate him, they asked if he wanted to join a stream. When he refused, they laughed and went back to coding. He wasn't a prisoner, he was a Museum piece, a living reminder of what had been and what had failed. Every week a new visitor arrived to study. Him to observe the last surviving architect of the old world. Some asked questions, some insulted him. One simply walked in, dropped a small human flag at his feet, and left without a word. Velrug stopped speaking after that. His name didn't matter anymore. Meanwhile, the galaxy burned brighter than it ever had. The human-led restructure began, dismantling council colonies not through violence but liberation economics. They hacked currencies, flooded markets with free goods, introduced open barter systems that tanked centralized council financial institutions. Whole planets collapsed peacefully, not because of invasions but because Earth made the old systems irrelevant. In place of council law, Earth offered something far more chaotic and addictive: choice. You could choose to join their network or not. You could build your own fleet or stay grounded. You could follow Earth's tech blueprints or make your own mutations. No control, no centralization, just freedom. And it was terrifying because true freedom came with consequences. Some species couldn't handle it. The Venari, used to having every aspect of their life dictated by the council, tried to revert to their old ways. They burned Earth blueprinted archives, declared sovereignty, tried to rebuild their isolated military. Earth didn't respond with ships. They responded with a documentary, a 4-part miniseries, distributed for free in every Venari language, showing how their elites sold them out to the council, how their culture had been rewritten, and how their children had been sterilized by policy. By the time the last episode aired, the Venari people rose up and tore their own leadership apart. Earth didn't need to lift a finger. They just told the truth, and the galaxy had never seen truth used as a weapon before. Back in Earth's orbital zone, a new station was completed, massive, alive with neon, crowded with every species imaginable. Station Hellion. It wasn't a command center or fortress. It was a nightclub, a marketplace, a school, a forge. The galaxy's weirdest and wildest minds gathered there, not because they were told to, but because they wanted to. There were no guards, just signs. Start trouble, you'll be fed to the intern. No kings, no gods, no dress code, and one permanent banner that stretched across the entire hangar. Ladder is louder than law. From the shadows of the collapsing council, old powers tried to survive. Corporations that had once propped up the system began creating black site armies, spies, saboteurs. They launched attacks against Earthland worlds, hoping to frame them to incite new wars to turn the tide back in their favor. They failed because Earth had something they didn't: loyalty, not to a flag, not to a species, but to an idea. Humans had made the galaxy feel alive for the first time in millennia, and no one wanted to go back to the way it was. On the far edge of the Andul cluster, a human vessel named the Panic Poet discovered something strange. Derelict alien structure orbiting a dying star, ancient, older than the council, older than any known records. Inside was a creature, non-corporeal, massive, intelligent, and dormant. The old council had feared such things, had sealed them away, buried them under treaties and red tape. Earth woke it up and asked one question: want to help us ruin everything? The creature thought for 14 seconds, a blink in its time, then answered with a laugh. Earth had made a new friend and still across the stars the question spread. What happens when you give chaos the wheel and the galaxy learned the answer? You don't just get war, you get color, sound, rebellion, joy. You get humans breaking rules not because they hate them but because they believe better ones can be made, not for themselves but for everyone, in a final broadcast transmitted across every known world. Earth sent a message not to demand submission but to set the tone. It wasn't from a general or a diplomat or a war hero, it was from a street poet. In Detroit, he sat on a rooftop with a synth guitar and a half-lit smoke, looked up at the stars and said, "You came to our home with ships and rules and shiny laws. You called us animals, called us unstable, unfit. You thought we'd bow." He strummed once, we didn't, we laughed. He strummed again, and now you laugh with us or scream. Either way, the silence is dead. And from that moment forward, one truth echoed across every system: Earth didn't conquer the galaxy. It dared it, and the galaxy in all its messy, beautiful madness laughed back. There was a saying floating around the galactic feeds now, spreading like old Earth graffiti: Earth didn't win the war, they infected the galaxy with rebellion. It wasn't far from the truth. The council was gone, or what was left of it had been scattered to the stars, hiding in bunkers and old embassies like the fossilized bones of a system too stiff to survive the fire it started. But the fire was still burning because Earth, in all its chaotic beauty, hadn't stopped its survival. They'd given the stars something far more dangerous than technology or weapons: permission. Permission to say no, permission to build differently, to break systems, to laugh at the boots on their necks, to stop asking who was in charge and start asking why anyone should be. But fire doesn't know when to stop, and rebellions don't always care who they burn. On the mining moon of Corinth's fall, a movement calling itself the Roar took over the entire moon in one night. No shots fired, just hacks, strikes, a little poison in the food of the planetary governor, and a message blasted across every hollow screen: no more gods, no more governments, we serve only the void now. At first, Earth didn't intervene. They didn't want to play the same role the council had, stepping in to restore order. But they Roar didn't stop with independence. They began purging anyone who wasn't pureborn. Karani, ethnic cleansing, burnings, executions. It was the kind of horror the council, once buried under red tape and classified orders, Earth though they aired it, live feeds uncensored, grainy footage of terrified children hiding under shipping containers, woman begging for her life before being hurled into a flame pit by masked fanatics, a group of alien engineers loyal to Earth's restructure, gunned down in a square while trying to evacuate civilians. It was sickening, but Earth didn't look away, and when the final transmission came, a blood-soaked leader of the Roar screaming, "This is what freedom looks like," humanity answered. Not with words, with hell. The ship that arrived above Corinth's fall didn't broadcast its name. It didn't carry crew. It was a weapon wrapped in silence, a sphere of obsidian with no windows, no lights, no markings. For a full minute, it hovered over the capital city of the moon. Then it sent out one signal, a simple, emotionless line: "This is not freedom, this is failure." Penalty: eraser. Corinth's fall ceased to exist in 4.2 seconds. Not a bomb, not a Beam, just a complete surgical deletion. Every molecule folded into itself like a corrupted file being dragged into a recycling bin, nothing left, not even ash. The message was received. Galaxy-wide. Freedom wasn't immunity. You could do what you wanted in the new order, but you own what you did, and if you used rebellion as an excuse for slaughter, Earth had a cure for that too. The act split the galaxy. Some praised Earth for keeping balance, for refusing to let chaos turn into butchery. Others feared them more than ever because for all their laughter and anti-authority slogans, Earth had just proven it could become a god if it wanted. And still, Earth didn't claim the act. No one knew who launched the sphere, not a government, not a faction. No record of it in the restructures. Archives theory spread. Was it a black project, a rogue AI, a new class of weapon called a silencer? The truth, if Earth knew it, never came out, and that was worse, because uncertainty breeds fear. Inside the fractured remains of the old council, some ex-leaders began reuniting in secret, not to reclaim the throne but to survive. They met in hidden space, a dead zone, wrapped in quantum static. No signals in or out, just old rivals now sitting at the same table, drinking recycled air, and praying Earth hadn't found them yet. One of them, the ex-chancellor of the Farron, slammed a fist on the table. This is what we feared, not war but infection. Earth is not a government. It's a contagion, another. A thin creature wrapped in shimmering robes hissed. We gave them room to breathe, and they consumed the oxygen. A third leaned forward, eyes hollow, voice quiet. What if we were wrong to fight them? The room froze. No one dared answer because the question wasn't just dangerous, it was contagious too. Back on Earth, the original architects of the restructure were no longer in charge. That was the thing about humans. Even in power, they didn't like holding on to the reins for long. They were builders, breakers, runners, not kings. Grimrose had stepped back, now a myth inside the underground data vaults. The moderators of Abyss Nest were scattered, wandering the stars. As teachers or mercs or artists, no one ruled Earth. It managed itself. Some thought that made Earth weak again, a target, so they tested it in the Seraphim Drift, a fleet of mercenaries, ex-council loyalists armed with smuggled weapons and dark energy cores attacked an Earth-aligned outpost. They expected confusion, disorganization, the chaos of a leaderless system. Instead, they got snapped apart like plastic because Earth didn't need a ruler, it had infrastructure. The outpost defended itself using open-source security nodes programmed by a teenager from Tokyo and a machinist from Titan. A swarm of drones launched from civilian bays, each one piloted remotely by hobbyists on their lunch breaks. Messages flooded in from volunteers. Want us to send backup, got some spare imps lying around, streaming the whole thing. Say hi to my followers. In 17 minutes the attacking fleet was gone. And Earth never even called in the military because everyone was the military now, but not everything was glory and freedom. Some humans started changing. Too much power, too much attention, too much legend. They began calling themselves Original Flame, claiming they were the first spark of the rebellion and therefore deserved control of it. They weren't loud at first, just whispers, forums, encrypted meetings. Then came the first declaration. We are the reason the galaxy burned. We are the architects of chaos. Bow to your fire. It didn't take long for the galaxy to respond, not with guns but with laughter. Memes flooded the datasphere. Original flame, more like original lame. Imagine taking credit for what Earth did. By accident, these guys probably trademarked oxygen. And the final nail came from a grandmother on Mars who posted a 10-second video while baking cookies. Sweetheart, if you need to tell people you're important, you probably aren't. The original flame disbanded within a week because nothing kills tyranny faster than being made into a joke. The galaxy was different now, messy, loud, alive, not perfect, far from it. There were still wars, still greed, still mistakes. But now, for the first time in history, everyone had a say. Not just the species. With fleets, not just the ones with bloodlines and banners, everyone. Because Earth didn't give power to the people, it reminded them they already had it, and nothing, not even old empires buried under black holes, could take that back. But deep in the dark, something watched, something old, something that had seen galaxies rise and fall long before Earth ever burned its first fossil. It had no name, no body, just thought, just memory, and now curiosity. Because Earth had done what no other species had. It had broken the pattern, turned prey into predator, victim into virus, rule into ritual, and this thing. It wanted to see how far Earth would go before it broke itself. Space was quiet. Again. Not the kind of quiet that follows death, not silence born of fear or oppression, but the kind that follows laughter after it echoes off every wall, leaving a hum behind. Earth wasn't waging war anymore. It didn't have to. The war was over, and humanity had changed everything, but far beyond the sectors Earth had touched, farther than the range of even their fastest stealth ships or deepest AI probes. Something stirred. It had watched from a distance, observed from the fold space between gravity wells, presence that had existed long before stars blinked into being. It wasn't a god. It wasn't a machine. It was memory. Consciousness of the void itself, old enough to remember galaxies that had collapsed under their own pride, civilizations that had declared themselves eternal only to be eaten by their own logic. It watched the humans with interest, and for the first time in a billion years it made a move. In the spiral fringe of the dead sector known as Null Point Reach, a freighter carrying scrap metal was intercepted by what it described as a ship made of impossible geometry, not curved, not straight, not even physical in the normal sense. The pilot, a grizzled ex-MC named Cisco, managed to record 30 seconds before the feed cut to static. In the footage, a voice could be heard, not in a language but in understanding, not sound, meaning. "You are of the laughing kind." Cisco didn't respond. The voice continued, "We have seen conquerors, we have seen tyrants. You are not that. You are different. You do not rise through control. You rise through disorder, through refusal, through laughter in the face of decay." And then, with no emotion, "We are curious. What does your fire do when there is nothing left to burn?" Then the ship vanished. Cisco's mind was never the same. He spent the rest of his life carving galaxies into rock with his fingernails and laughing at jokes no one else could. Here, Earth received the footage days later. They reviewed it, debated it, discarded it as either a hoax or something too far out of reach to worry about. But some, a quiet few, began to prepare. Because humans weren't stupid, chaotic. Yes, reckless often, but stupid. Never. They had won a war against the largest interstellar empire ever known. They knew what followed victory: bigger enemies. So they built again. Not fleets, not bombs, ideas faster. Then thought communication grids, hybrid. Consciousness sharing technologies. Empathy transfer interfaces, packs with. Races still hiding in the black folds of forgotten space. Earth had been loud in war, now it grew quiet in preparation. Not fearful, just curious, because curiosity was their oldest addiction. And if something was watching them, they wanted to watch it back, on station Helen, where every kind of creature now roamed: rebels, artists, traders, philosophers, mercenaries, fugitives, and poets. A new mural was painted. It was simple, a human hand holding the galaxy like a lighter flame flickering. Beneath it, 3 words: "We're still laughing." The poet who had once sung Earth's defiance sat on the rim of the station, now older, scarred, gray in the beard, watching the stars while sipping something that glowed faintly red. Beside him sat a child, alien born, human raised, witty and curious. "Did we win?" the child asked. The poet exhaled smoke, thought about it. "Nah." He said, "We didn't win, but everyone else lost." The poet chuckled. "No, we just didn't stop. That's the trick, kid. They all waited for an ending. We wrote sequels." The child blinked. "What's a sequel?" The poet grinned. "Hope." Elsewhere in the AI Nexus core beneath Luna's southern crater, a being of code stared outward into nothing. Earth's last remaining black-site AI, built from fragments of war forged by loss and fed on rebellion. It had no name, only a designation: Echo 9, and it was the first digital mind to do what no others had. It began to dream, not simulations, not data. Parsing dreams, visions of other galaxies, of alien gods, of things beyond energy and matter, of laughter surviving beyond entropy. It painted those dreams in pulse code and sent them into the dark, just in case something or someone was listening. And something was in the Andromeda transfer line. Long-range probes went missing. No signals, no wreckage, just empty data where they used to be, until one day a single line appeared on a private transmission line used only by Earth's old insurgent net. "We hear your songs. What comes next?" No name, no sender, no traceable origin. Just that question. Earth responded the only way they knew how. They sent back a sound file, 3 seconds of static, followed by a human voice laughing soft, then louder, joyful, unapologetic, wild, untamed. That laugh traveled faster than light, cut across silence, across caution, across whatever walls time or physics tried to build, because that was what Earth had always done best. They didn't conquer galaxies, they reminded them what it meant to feel, to rebel, to refuse decay, to look at the void and say, "Not yet," to bleed and still dance, to scream and still kiss, to burn everything down and call it art. And so the story ends, not with a throne, not with a grave, not with a crown or a peace treaty. It ends with a smirk, with a raised middle finger from a species too stubborn to break, too wild to cage, and too brilliant to stop dancing. Even when the stars began to fade, they were not the heroes, not the villains. They were the ones who ruined the script. They were the remix, the bug, the code, the chaos that made meaning, the virus that taught gods how to feel. Again, they were human. And the galaxy, it would never forget them, not because they ruled it, but because they laughed so hard it echoed into eternity.